I hope it's only one decade of lost that we lose in America. Japan has had two lost decades now, as you probably know, and America's in much, much, much worse shape than Japan. America's the largest debtor nation, not just in the world, Justin, in the history of the world. And we have serious problems. They're not addressing the problems in America, so I hope it's only 1 or 2 decades we lose. It may be 3 or 4.
So what do American politicians need to do?
Well, first they need to get a little education about the rest of the world and about their own economic situation, and then we have to change our tax code dramatically. We have to cut spending with a chainsaw, not with an axe, with a chainsaw. We've got troops stationed in over 120 countries around the world. I mean, the politicians have sent them there, and those military establishments are making things worse for America, not better. We got to change our total way of thinking, just as the British did when the British started facing reality.
When you say face reality, you seem to be suggesting that the age of American supremacy is over.
Absolutely, aren't you? Listen to the BBC and you'll hear what's going on in the world. The 19th century was the century of the UK. The 20th century was the century of the US. The 21st century is the century of China, of Asia, Justin. I mean, this is a simple fact. The largest creditor nations in the world now, Justin, are China, Korea, Japan, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore. Those are all Asian countries. This is where the assets are. This is where the energy is, the dynamicism is. You know who the debtors are and where they are.
But the Chinese economy, for example, just to take one Asian economy, isn't looking so healthy itself, is it? I mean, yes, it's still growing, but there are these real concerns about inflationary pressures within the economy which could derail Chinese growth, couldn't they?
Extremely insightful of you. Yes, China's got some problems, and they will continue to have problems. Fortunately, they realize the problems. They're trying to cut back on the inflation. They've made some mistakes, too. They should have opened their currency to make it a convertible currency, which is the fact that it's not convertible, and all that money is trapped in China. It's just adding to the inflation. So, yeah, they're making mistakes, too. Still, I'd rather be with the creditors than with the debtors any day.
I suppose what I'm suggesting is that, you look at America, you look at Europe, you even look at China and India, the two great Asian behemoths, and you see problems across the world economy. Are we entering now a period of slow growth globally?
Oh, yes, absolutely. If that's what you meant, there's no question about that. You just pointed out that China's got its own problems. But this is the way the world has always worked. We've gone through long periods when things were great, followed by long periods when things slowed down for a while, and we cleaned up mistakes of the past.
So you think we're entering one of these cyclical periods of slow growth worldwide?
Unless you know something I don't know, yes, absolutely. The only areas of the world economy I see that are going to be dynamic are natural resources. I mean, farming is going to be one of the best professions of the next 10 or 20 or 30 years.
You seem very sanguine about this. You don't seem very worried by it.
No, not at all. The world's been going through big changes like this throughout history. In the 20s and 30s, the world moved from the UK to America, exacerbated by a financial crisis and mistakes made by politicians. The world is going through a historic shift again from the U.S. to Asia, exacerbated by a financial crisis and mistakes made by politicians. Justin, the world's been going on for a few thousand years. There have always been big changes and adjustments. At some times in history, the financial types have been in charge. At other times in history, the people who produce real goods have been in charge. It's the way the world has always worked. The key, of course, is to figure out what's coming next and go there. Become a Chinese farmer. That's what you should do, Justin.
You say farming. Why do you think farming will be such a crucial sector in the next couple of decades?
Farming has been a disaster for 30 years, Justin. The average age of farmers in America is 58. Because it's been such a horrible business. The average age of farmers in Japan is 66. In Australia, it's 58. I could go on and on. In 10 years, those farmers are going to be 68 if they're still alive. Justin, we have huge shortages developing in agriculture, and great fortunes are going to be made by the people who address those problems.
And commodities is the other sector you said we should look at. But hold on a second. If the world economy is entering a period of slow growth that you think is going to last not one decade, but a number of decades, why on earth would you put your money in commodities?
Because you ask where the best areas of the world economy are going to be. That's where the shortages are developing. In the 1970s, most of the world's economy was in the tank. But commodities boomed. Justin, we had one of the great bull markets of history in commodities for about 15, 20 years in the 70s, between the 60s and the early 80s in commodities, because we had huge shortages everywhere. And because governments everywhere printed money. Well, governments are printing money again. It's the wrong thing to do, Justin, but that's all they know to do. So between shortages of supply and money printing, if you want to be in the dynamic parts of the world economy, don't get an MBA and go to Wall Street. Go and get a farming degree and move to a